Most women think powerful men are drawn to drama, thrill, and the chase. But the truth is, the real power lies in what they don't say. They crave emotional peace. They test your energy before they open up, and they want to be chosen, not pursued. In this speech, you'll uncover the quiet truths, the 5 secrets every powerful man keeps from women, and why knowing them will completely shift the way you connect, attract, and hold the attention of the kind of man who doesn't just play the game, he rewrites the rules. Everyone experiences moments of insecurity, that small nagging voice that questions your worth, your ability, or whether you're enough. But there's a difference in how some people handle it. Instead of letting that voice shrink them, they use it as a mirror to reflect what they need to strengthen. They don't broadcast their insecurities or seek approval from others to soothe them. They do the inner work quietly. They carry the weight of uncertainty without making it someone else's burden. They don't require reassurance to move forward. They find it in action, in discipline, and in achievement. When someone projects confidence and self-possession, it's easy to assume they never feel doubt. But the truth is, they probably just got very good at managing it. Insecurity doesn't disappear, but it can be transformed. The real power comes from choosing how to respond when it shows up. The instinct might be to shrink, to protect the ego, to hide behind bravado or silence. But that choice keeps people stuck. Instead, leaning into discomfort, asking better questions, and choosing growth over ego builds a deeper, unshakable self-assurance. People who've developed emotional strength rarely reveal their vulnerable moments too soon. Not because they're hiding, but because they're processing. They understand that sharing pain with the wrong audience can turn strength into weakness. They've learned the hard way that not every person deserves access to their fears. Instead of venting or oversharing, they quietly course correct. They journal, they think, they strategize. They seek environments that challenge them, not ones that just comfort them. And when they come out on the other side, they're stronger, wiser, and more precise in their movements. There's a particular kind of strength in not needing to be told you're enough. Of course, affirmation feels good. Everyone wants to be seen, but some choose not to rely on it. They've learned that external validation is fleeting and fragile. One minute you're on top of the world, the next you're wondering what happened. Building confidence from the inside out means you're no longer at the mercy of someone else's perception. That kind of inner structure becomes a quiet superpower. You walk differently, you speak differently, you no longer need to chase worth, you carry it. Sometimes silence is misunderstood as arrogance, but often it's a form of control. Holding your tongue when you're tempted to defend your worth can be the most powerful move in the room. Those who've learned to sit with their insecurities without scrambling to correct or explain them are usually the ones who've already done the work to know who they are. They know that their energy doesn't need to be spent trying to prove something. They're not trying to win every battle because they're playing a much bigger game. The one that lasts longer than a single conversation or moment of judgment. There's also an awareness that not everyone is equipped to handle what lies underneath. So rather than reveal too much too soon, they prefer to listen, to observe. They read the room, the situation, the energy, and they reveal themselves in layers carefully, deliberately, not out of fear, but out of precision. In doing so, they in control over their narrative. They don't hand it over to people who might misuse it. That discretion is not coldness, it's clarity. The work to transmute insecurity into power often happens in private. It's done in early mornings, late nights, gym sessions, long walks, difficult books, uncomfortable conversations with mentors, and raw confrontations with the self. The growth happens in the moments no one else sees. It's the decision to push one more time, to resist the urge to run, to show up when it would be easier to shrink. And over time, those choices create an inner resilience that becomes visible to the world in the form of composure, confidence, and focus. But the truth is, the battle with insecurity never truly ends. It evolves. Every new level of success, every new relationship, every new risk awakens a new layer of doubt. But those who've developed true strength don't panic when that happens. They know the feeling. They've made peace with it. They don't need to be rescued from it. They get curious. They ask what the insecurity is trying to teach them. And instead of running from it, they follow the signal toward growth. This way of living creates a foundation that doesn't shake easily. Life can throw its storms, but there's a stillness underneath. Not because nothing bothers them, but because they've already sat with the worst parts of themselves and decided not to run. They've faced the rejection, the failure, the fear, and they're still here. That experience, over time, forges something unshakable. And when someone like that enters a relationship, it changes the dynamic. They're not looking for someone to heal them. They're not projecting wounds or trying to mask them with charm or bravado. They're not asking for someone to constantly validate their decisions. They show up whole, which means they also expect the same in return. They're drawn to strength, emotional intelligence, and maturity because they've worked hard to embody those qualities themselves. There's also a deep understanding of responsibility, that their emotional regulation is not someone else's job. They don't make others the target of their mood swings. They've built habits that keep them grounded. And when they slip, because everyone does, they own it. They apologize with sincerity. They reflect. They adjust. They care about how their actions affect the people close to them, even if they don't always say it out loud. That restraint, that ability to hold emotion without being dominated by it, is one of the clearest signs of real power, because anyone can react. Anyone can explode or retreat or play victim. It takes a different kind of strength to pause, breathe, and choose a thoughtful response. Not because you're suppressing emotion, but because you're guiding it. People who operate at this level often intimidate others, not through aggression or dominance, but through the steadiness they embody. Their silence can feel loud. Their presence demands attention, not because they're trying to take up space, but because their energy naturally fills the room. That's what happens when you stop outsourcing your confidence. You walk into a room with something most can't fake: alignment. They don't flaunt what they've overcome. They don't need to. It's in how they speak, how they listen, how they don't flinch when others do. It's in the way they stay centered when emotions rise. It's in the calm behind their eyes. And perhaps most of all, it's in the fact that they never needed to prove their power to begin with. There's a quiet truth that often goes unnoticed. Even the most self-assured people crave the feeling of being chosen. Not pursued, not chased, chosen. There's a difference between someone chasing affection and someone who inspires it through their presence, energy, and self-worth. The first comes from a place of trying to win over. The second stems from alignment from knowing who you are and standing rooted in your value. When someone feels truly powerful in themselves, they don't seek out people who chase them. The thrill of being pursued fades quickly when it's not accompanied by depth. What they long for, even if they'll never admit it, is to be desired by someone who could have anyone, but still chooses them. That choice, when it comes from a place of confidence rather than need, is magnetic. It's irresistible. It says, I see you, not because I'm desperate, but because I recognize something in you that matches my own sense of self. There's a misconception that people who are in control, successful, or put together want to always take the lead, that they want to be the ones directing the connection, deciding the pace, initiating every move. But often they're simply tired. They've carried responsibility in so many areas of life that when it comes to intimacy, they crave something different. Not control, but connection. Not dominance, but recognition. They want to feel that someone is with them, not because of what they can offer, but because of who they are behind the armor. And they won't always say this out loud. In fact, most of the time, they won't say anything at all. They'll play it cool. They'll carry on with charm, strength, and decisiveness. But underneath that is a quiet hope that someone will see beyond the surface and make them feel chosen. Not because they asked to be, but because it was felt naturally, genuinely, and effortlessly. When someone constantly chases another person, it becomes about proving worth. That dynamic subtly shifts the power in a way that diminishes authenticity. It becomes a performance. The chaser starts anticipating what the other person wants and molding themselves to fit. And while that may create temporary interest, it doesn't lead to lasting attraction, because no one wants to feel like someone's prize. They want to feel like someone's equal. The moment someone stops chasing and starts standing in their own value, the energy shifts. They no longer feel the need to perform, impress, or win over. They show up fully as they are. And from that place, they invite others to meet them. Not because they're trying to manipulate interest, but because they trust that what they bring to the table is enough. That's when real attraction begins to take root. It's not about games or tactics. It's about energy. When you're grounded in your own worth, your presence speaks for you. You don't have to say, I'm valuable. People feel it. And when someone powerful encounters that kind of energy, it stands out. They notice when someone isn't trying to impress them. They notice when someone listens more than they talk. They notice when someone has a life, a purpose, a set of values. They won't compromise just to be liked. Those subtle signals, being unavailable sometimes, prioritizing your passions, holding boundaries, not jumping at every text or call, don't signal disinterest. They signal standards. And standards are magnetic to someone who has their own. It's not about being cold or distant. It's about being intentional. There's a difference between being available and being easy to win over. The first is openness. The second is a lack of self-worth. People who command attention in many areas of life often attract people who want to bask in their glow, but they're not impressed by admiration alone. What turns their head is someone who doesn't just admire their strength, but matches it in their own unique way. Someone who brings peace without shrinking. Someone who adds joy without needing to take anything away. Someone who doesn't chase, but chooses. To be chosen, not chased, is to be seen in your wholeness. It's to be respected without needing to perform. It's to inspire connection rather than convince someone to stay. When you choose someone from a place of clarity and confidence, you're not saying, I need you to complete me. You're saying, I already feel whole, and still I see something in you that draws me in. That's the kind of connection that builds slow-burning, lasting intimacy. Chasing often comes from a place of fear of losing the opportunity, fear of not being enough, fear of being alone. But fear is not a foundation for connection. When someone no longer operates from fear but from trust, they stop chasing altogether. They realize that if they have to convince someone to care, it's already over. That if someone needs to be pursued endlessly just to engage, they're not emotionally available. And so they choose peace over performance. They choose to walk away from games and move toward mutual energy. There's nothing more compelling than someone who knows they're a catch and acts accordingly, not with arrogance, but with assurance. Someone who doesn't rush the process, someone who can say, I'm interested, but I won't overextend myself to prove it. That level of composure sends a message that's louder than any romantic gesture. It says, I have nothing to prove. I'm just here to connect. And if it flows, beautiful. If it doesn't, I won't try to force what's not meant for me. This creates a space where someone truly powerful feels safe to let their guard down, because they're not being smothered by neediness. They're being seen by someone who holds their own. And in that space, something rare happens. They relax, they lean in, they reciprocate, not because they were chased into submission, but because they finally felt that quiet electric pull of being chosen for real. And that changes thing, because when both people choose each other, not out of desperation, not out of obligation, but from alignment and mutual value, that's when love doesn't feel like a struggle. It feels like coming home. Opening up is never an impulsive decision for someone who's learned to protect their emotional world. It's measured, cautious, and often delayed until they feel safe. Emotional safety is not about surface level comfort. It's about trust built in silence, in the way someone listens, in how they respond during tension, in the way they respect space without taking distance personally. Before revealing what lies beneath the surface, they observe, not to manipulate, but to protect the most vulnerable parts of themselves. People often mistake emotional restraint for emotional absence. They assume that if someone doesn't immediately open up, they're detached or uninterested. But emotional distance can be a form of wisdom. It's the result of learning through experience that not every person is capable of holding what's real. Vulnerability is currency, and like any form of wealth, it's not handed out indiscriminately. It's earned through consistency, presence, and respect. Before someone reveals the chapters of their story that contain shame, fear, hurt, or confusion, they need to see if the other person creates a space of emotional safety. That space isn't made by promises or poetic words. It's made in the micro moments. When they express something small and personal, does the other person interrupt? Does the energy shift? Do they feel judged, or do they feel seen? Do they feel heard? It's easy to talk about emotional intimacy. It's harder to build. That's why many people test it subtly before they ever show what's under the armor. They might drop a minor truth, a quiet worry, a trace of doubt, and then watch. Not because they're trying to play games, but because they're trying to see, is it safe here? Can I go deeper? Can I trust this person with what I normally keep locked away? Emotional safety doesn't mean constant agreement or endless flattery. It means being able to show up with real feelings, even if they're messy or inconvenient, and not fear being misunderstood, ridiculed, or dismissed. It means being allowed to have layers, complexity, and even contradictions without being told to calm down or toughen up. For those who've spent a lifetime performing strength, being able to just be without managing someone else's perception is the highest form of intimacy. Many people are hungry for connection, but forget that the way they respond to emotional honesty determines how deep that connection can go. If someone shares a vulnerable thought and it's met with judgment, sarcasm, or emotional withdrawal, a wall goes up, sometimes without a word. The moment has passed, and so has the opportunity to see more of the real person beneath the exterior. It's not always conscious either. People don't always realize they're being tested, that when someone reveals a subtle fear or quiet insecurity, it's not just a random confession. It's a moment of trust. And what they do in response matters, whether they lean in with curiosity or recoil with discomfort, whether they hold space or try to fix. Those small choices leave a lasting imprint. When someone chooses not to share their emotions right away, it's not a lack of feelings, it's a form of discernment. They're not trying to be mysterious or distant. They're trying to make sure that when they do open up, it's with someone who won't weaponize their words later. They've likely been through moments where vulnerability was used against them, where honesty made them feel weaker, not closer, and they've learned to protect themselves by not handing over emotional access to someone who hasn't shown they can handle it. This doesn't mean they don't want to open up. In fact, they often do deeply. They crave the kind of relationship where they can show the fears they hide from the world, the doubts that sit quietly in their mind, the dreams that scare them because of how much they matter. But they'll only share those things if they feel emotionally safe, if they feel like their feelings won't be turned into reasons to be rejected. One of the strongest indicators of emotional safety is how someone responds to discomfort. If they shut down when things get tense, if they become defensive when challenged, or if they try to control instead of understand, those are signals that emotional depth may not be safe there. On the other hand, when someone stays steady in moments of vulnerability, when they don't flinch or try to escape the moment, that creates the space for deeper truth to emerge. Trust is not just about believing someone won't lie or cheat. It's about believing that someone can hold your truth without dropping it, that they won't flinch at your shadows, that they won't use your honesty to gain control, that they won't retreat when you show them a part of yourself you rarely reveal. That's the kind of trust that takes time, observation, and patience to build, and even longer to rebuild once broken. In romantic connections, people often crave depth, but rush the process. They want immediate intimacy, full disclosure, raw emotion. But emotional trust doesn't work on a deadline. It can't be forced with pressure or accelerated with charm. It has to unfold naturally through repeated moments of honesty, through mismatches handled with care, through the way someone shows up, not just when things are good, but when they're hard. This is why emotional maturity is often tested long before emotional depth is offered. Emotional maturity isn't about being perfectly calm all the time. It's about how someone handles emotional friction. Do they lean in or check out? Do they try to understand or simply defend? Are they comfortable being uncomfortable? Because the reality is, true intimacy isn't always sweet. It's often messy. And only those willing to sit in that mess without blame or retreat are the ones who get invited deeper. For someone who guards their heart carefully, the decision to let another person in is one of the most profound they can make. It's a decision rooted in hope, but filtered through experience. It's not made lightly. It's not made with just chemistry. It's made when they feel that the emotional space being offered isn't just warm. It's consistent, stable, and real. The irony is, the more put together someone appears, the more emotional depth they often hide. The calm exterior, the stoic composure, the cool demeanor, it all protects a world of emotion that few are allowed to see. Not because they don't feel, but because they feel deeply. And they've learned that not everyone can meet them there. So before they share that depth, they wait, they test, they observe. And when they finally do choose to open up, it's not a random moment, it's a gift. One earned through presence, through emotional steadiness, through a quiet understanding that trust is built, not demanded, and that the most powerful truths are never shouted. They're whispered in safe spaces when the heart finally says, I trust you with this. Peace is the most underrated desire when it comes to connection. People talk endlessly about chemistry, excitement, attraction, but rarely about peace. And yet, it's the one thing that becomes more valuable with time, more necessary after experience, and more irreplaceable once IT's found. Passion may light the match, but peace sustains the flame. In a world full of noise, chaos, and constant demands, peace is the one thing that feels like home. It's not about avoiding intensity or pretending that problems don't exist. It's about finding someone who doesn't add to the storm, someone whose presence softens the edge of the day, whose energy doesn't escalate drama but diffuses it. Peace isn't boring, it's healing. It's not about the absence of emotion. It's about emotional maturity. It's about knowing how to navigate conflict without losing respect. It's about feeling safe enough to relax, breathe, and be exactly who you are without fear of judgment or unnecessary tension. When someone is constantly putting out fires in life, whether in work, responsibilities, or past relationships, they become more attuned to where peace lives and where it doesn't. They start to notice who drains them versus who restores them. They become less tolerant of emotional roller coasters, less impressed by chaos disguised as passion. The thrill of unpredictable highs and lows might have once felt exciting, but now it's exhausting. Now, what stands out isn't the loudest energy in the room, but the calmest one. Peace doesn't mean lack of connection. In fact, the most powerful connections often exist between people who are grounded in themselves and know how to create space for one another. When two people can sit in silence without anxiety, speak without raising their voices, disagree without disrespect. It builds trust. And trust creates emotional safety. And emotional safety creates depth. That depth isn't possible in environments where someone feels like they're walking on eggshells or bracing for the next explosion. Those who value peace start to recognize its language early. It's in the tone of voice, in how someone responds under stress, in whether they listen to understand or only to reply. It's in the way they respect boundaries, honor time, and stay steady even when emotions run high. Peace is not passive, it's intentional. It's maintained through self-awareness, empathy, and a desire to protect the connection rather than constantly challenge it. The idea that love must be hard to be real is one of the most damaging beliefs people internalize. Love can be challenging, yes, but it should never be a battlefield. It should never be a place of emotional volatility, manipulation, or unpredictability. Real love comes with friction, but it also comes with resolution. It's not defined by the presence of conflict, but by how conflict is handled. Peace means the hard moments don't destroy the relationship, they refine it. There's a difference between someone who stirs your soul and someone who disturbs your spirit. That difference is felt in the aftermath of every interaction. Do you feel clearer or more confused? Calmer or more anxious, empowered or diminished? When peace is present, you leave conversations with a sense of clarity. Even when it's a difficult topic, there's a mutual effort to understand and move forward, not to win or punish. As someone evolves emotionally, their priorities shift. What used to feel exciting, jealousy, drama, unpredictable emotional highs begins to feel immature. It's no longer about finding someone who can compete in an emotional game. It's about finding someone who knows how to sit at the table and talk, someone who wants to build something sustainable instead of reliving old patterns dressed up as passion. The intensity that once felt like fire now feels like friction, and the consistency that was once overlooked becomes deeply attractive. Peace is also about knowing who you are and refusing to abandon that in order to maintain a connection. It's about standing firm in your values, your standards, your emotional needs, and being met by someone who does the same. There's a rhythm in peaceful relationships that allows both people to flourish independently while still growing together. There's no tug of war over control. There's no constant testing. There's no performance to maintain affection. There's just honesty, presence, and mutual respect. When someone seeks peace, they don't run from intensity, they run from instability. They've likely had moments in the past where love was loud but unsafe, where passion came with unpredictability, where affection was inconsistent, and now they want something different. They want warmth without chaos, depth without destruction, connection without confusion. Peace becomes the filter through which every potential relationship is measured. Not how much do they want me, but how do I feel when I'm with them? Peace is not the absence of emotion, but the presence of emotional balance. It's the ability to have strong feelings without being dominated by them. It's knowing that even when disagreements arise, there is still a foundation of care. It's understanding that safety is created moment by moment through empathy, consistency, and communication. Peace creates the space for love to breathe, for trust to grow, for vulnerability to feel safe instead of risky. The real test of peace comes in moments of stress. When life is hard, when plans fall apart, when emotions flare, what remains? Is there space for grace, or is there blame? Is there room for imperfection, or does everything turn into a war zone? Peaceful people respond. They don't react. They seek solutions, not control. They care about how the other person feels, not just about being right. That emotional intelligence care eats a foundation where love can mature, not just ignite. There's also a clarity that comes with peace. You stop second-guessing yourself all the time. You're no longer Living in survival mode, wondering what version of someone will show up today, you begin to feel anchored. That inner stability reflects in your work, your sleep, your conversations, your entire presence. Peace with someone else often begins with peace within. And the people you attract from that place are different. They're not interested in proving their worth. They're interested in sharing their life. Peace doesn't mean you never argue. It means arguments aren't destructive. It doesn't mean life is always easy. It means you're navigating it with someone who doesn't add to the weight. It doesn't mean you agree on everything. It means you handle disagreements with maturity and mutual understanding. The relationship becomes a refuge, not a battleground. And in that space, love thrives, not through intensity, but through presence, care, and calm. The desire for peace comes from knowing what it feels like to live without it. Once you've experienced the toll of emotional turmoil, the value of steady love becomes clear. It's not about adrenaline, it's about alignment. It's not about testing limits. It's about building something that lasts. It's not about excitement that burns bright and fast. It's about warmth that stays even when the lights go out. Peace, ultimately, is what transforms love from something fleeting into something foundational